What's going on there, guys? We're back with another one, and today we're going to talk about what's going on over there at ESPN. It's Dan LeBatard, who used to be over there at ESPN, had a lot to say, even talking about how expendable Stephen A. Smith will be, with this contract negotiation coming up. Well, they've already extended Shannon Sharp, and want him to do more with the network. Stephen A. Smith, they're going back and forth. Stephen A. wants to be the highest paid at the network. ESPN doesn't want to pay Stephen A. Smith too much, and they want to give him more jobs to elevate his money. They're saying everything he's already doing is not enough to justify them paying him $25 million. Dan LeBatard is like, since one of the head honchos then came out publicly and said, we could create a new star in your position, then you're kind of expendable. Well, he's also going to talk about what happened with Max Kellerman because something similar happened to him, and the business model being what it is, as far as getting a person to sit down, pay them, pretty much to stay quiet, stay on ice. You can't go anywhere. You can't go and start your own podcast or anything. You're contractually obligated to us. At the same time, we want to sit you down. You lose your audience. You lose your fan base. You can't say nothing one way or the other, and we'll pay you through the end of the contract. And then I guess, they may not renew them or whatever, but then, you could test the waters out and try to really rebuild, because when you're out, as long as Max has been out, so much changes in the game. Your core audience goes somewhere else and ends up, following another platform. But we're going to get into what Dan LeBatard had to say, and I'll be back. Let's speak.
I wanted to have a conversation with you guys about what happened and has happened most recently with the disappearance of Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman, who has vanished as the sports media debate ecosystem has shaken enough that Zaslow pointed at his television up here earlier and just said that guy when pointing at Skip Bayless, and watching, the 50,000 people left of whatever that following is. Right before football season, Skip Bayless is going to be gone. Max Kellerman, at the center of those wars, was collateral damage on something. And if you were watching what was happening with us at ESPN, they tried to kill Max Kellerman after we left by giving him the morning sports radio show. And the reason I bring you into this, Zaslow, is because I believe ESPN's strategy of figuring out that most people are disposable, including, they're saying, Stephen A. Smith, when Burt Magnus talks about, well, we'll go on without Stephen A. Smith publicly. You are the beneficiary of what it is has changed at ESPN, where they've realized they can get a person who is a professional radio host, and they don't have to give the Max Kellermans of the world the morning radio slot. Max Kellerman was a prodigy in this business. Max Kellerman is exhibit A on how you have to be careful about how disposable the pieces can be, because before Around the Horn, he hosted IMAX on ESPN. Before PTI, he hosted IMAX. And the way he got replaced was, I'm more valuable than this. And they said, no, you're not. Tony Reale was an intern on Pardon the Interruption. They went physically down a hallway, got the guy who happened to be there, and he's hosted that show for 20 years since.
Yeah,
because
he hosted Around the Horn. You said IMAX, which is where he went to when he went on Fox Sports Net.
Yeah. Forgive me. Yes, you're correct. That the original incarnation of Around the Horn was with Max Kellerman as host. He thought he was more valuable than that. He was a prodigy. He was a prodigy in sports television and sports radio.
Greatest orator since Martin Luther King, right?
According to him, yes. And he has, I will tell this story. I don't think you guys know this story either.
I can give you an answer on what's happened to him, by the way.
I have an answer, and I know what's happened to him because it's what they tried to do to us. I don't believe when we were negotiating at the end with ESPN over our intellectual property, I don't believe they know that the amount of value that they were giving us in those negotiations. When I was in those negotiations, I was coming to realize, they don't know that these feeds are this valuable. But the most scared I was during those negotiations was when they were suggesting doing to us what they did do to Max Kellerman, which is just, we'll pay you for the end of the contract. You can get the money and not have to work, but we're going to put you on the shelf for 18 months. And then you can see after the pandemic how all of that goes as you try to reinvent it after 18 months. That's a long time. Kellerman, after being on everything ESPN was doing, Kellerman has disappeared. Kellerman, a friend, Kellerman, whose talents I value, and I don't know how many people have noticed.
We're really entering in the era where these networks are wanting people to build their own audience, see what the audience looks like outside of their network, and then bring it into the fold. Paying you to shut your brand down is essentially career suicide, and that's not enough. I know Max Kellerman saying, I guess they're paying him like what, $5 million a year or something like that. To sit down and be quiet, that's not enough, as far as what it's going to do to your brand and everything. Max Kellerman is missing all these. You got to think about it, right? He's missing a lot of major fights, covering major boxers, talking about different sports. He was one of those guys who spoke about all sports and, was really trying to build himself in that media world. I think, for what Max Kellerman does, he's going to have to build himself independently. Now, what's the name? Brian Kenny said that he's going to reemerge somewhere else later this year, assuming his contract may be up. I don't know how long it goes, but I'm guessing it will be up, or they'll reach a buyout at some point. But he's going to reemerge on some platform. Maybe he will do good there. I know people want to hear from Max, but it's always risky. If you don't knock it out the park when you reemerge and you've been gone for so long, then it kind of is what it is, and you don't get too many chances with so much progression happening in the media world and so many stars being born every day. So that's one thing. Dan LeBatard said they tried to do something similar to him, with his content. Again, sitting you down, keep you quiet. I think anyone who has content, has a platform, would not do that. That's not what you want to do going forward. And Stephen A. Smith is kind of seeing now, and people feel like, with these negotiations, ESPN may feel like they have their guys. Stephen A. Smith, I don't want to say his best days are behind him, but a lot of the work that ESPN already got out of Stephen A. Smith, again, if he would have went to like YouTube back in 2015 or something like that, he'd have 3 or 4 million subs minimum. But in this oversaturated market, he's now struggling. I don't want to say he's struggling. He got a good amount of subs, but for his name and what he's able to do on his show and who he can get on his show and just how many fans he's acquired over the years, I think he could be further along if he would have went to YouTube back then, after that last contract. After he got back on First Take, got his face out there again, and was more popular than ever. The 10 million deal, that wasn't enough for him, and I'm not counting his pockets. I mean, I know he felt like at the time it was enough, but I'm just saying, sharing like the wisdom and as far as like what they're gonna have you doing, how they're gonna be pulling you each and every way, you ain't got no time to really do anything with the money you getting other than just, you can support people. And I don't know the family situation. Sometimes you sacrifice like that. But as far as how they're working him, I think, he's feeling really good about these days he's taking off now. And he sees like ESPN only wants to pay him if they can work him like a mule. He probably don't want to work like a mule no more. And hey, it is what it is at this point. I want to know what you guys think about this, though, in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time.